Liberals, it is safe to say now, under Justin Trudeau, have put an end to a decade of Stephen Harper's Tory rule. Quite an accomplishment. And we have our panel with us of strategists. We also have a really well-respected political voice in this country, Bob Rae.
Definitely not a strategist of any kind.
No, you're not a strategist. That's why you're sitting over there. Bob Rae, welcome. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
What do you make of what we're seeing? Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Well, I think he ran a really excellent campaign. I think he showed the vision, and I think he showed the execution. And I did a bit of work in different, parts of the country. I was in Atlantic, Canada 2 weeks ago, and met with many candidates and had meetings with them. They were doing very well. I was out in Vancouver last week. Had a terrific couple of sessions with candidates. And I think the leader's just done extraordinarily well. I think all the expectations about the challenges that he was going to have, I think he's met every single one of those and overcome, anybody's sort of sense of, he does not ready, all that stuff.
Well, he certainly came into this as the underdog. He was in third place when the campaign started. No one in history has actually gone from third place
before, but there was a big lull. There was a big lull in.
I think that's Justin Trudeau on the phone for you.
It could be. I'm not sure who it is exactly, but I'm going to turn them off. You got to remember, if you look back, we all lose our sense of even of time on this thing. But in the spring and in the early summer, before the election was called, the Liberals were going down, and Liberals were facing a real challenge. And there were many people who said it's just going to be between the Conservatives and the NDP. And I think Justin's first challenge at the beginning of the election was to show that we were in it, and he did that. And I think the first debate, he showed, wait a minute, and you could see the slow, all the charts will show a slow climb back. I think he did two big things. I think the decision on the deficit, nobody here will be surprised to hear me say this, I think it was the right decision. I think it was, you got to get out of the financial sandbox that the Conservatives have created. And I think his decision on the plane was great too. I think those were two very decisive moments when he just kind of, just sort of said no. And I think we saw a little bit, if I may say so, about what people liked about his father, which was that every once in a while he'd say thank you very much to all his advisors and say, this is what we're going to do. And he would just go out and do it. And if you want to be a leader, that's what you have to do. You have to be a leader. And I think he's shown that capacity. I think he showed it in the debates. We'll see whether it's minority or majority. There'll be lots of, toing and froing and a lot of ridings, but I don't think there's very much question that the Liberals are going to form the government.
How much of this is, do you think, down to the success of the Liberal campaign and Justin Trudeau himself and the failure of the other campaigns?
A little bit of both. I think it's easy to say this now in retrospect. Looking back, everybody can look. Everybody's a genius when you do this.
Of course.
Everybody's a strategist, Lord knows. But what you have to be able to say is, look, here's the way in which things can change. And I don't think Mr. Mulcair sees the moment, and I don't think Mr. Harper saw the extent to which what was coming. And I think they tried everything they had, all the armory, against Mr. Trudeau, and it didn't work. And I think they expected it to work, and it didn't work.
Bob, we're less than 30 seats away from a Liberal majority government. No guarantee that they're actually going to get there. But you've had experience not only with winning somewhat unexpectedly. Right, I remember I was there when you won it.
From number 3 to number 1, actually.
That's right. And I remember those days. But you've also had experience in dealing with a minority government. And if we're going that way, what sort of compromises with a very strong minority government do you think that Justin Trudeau is going to have to make, or does he have to make any compromises?
Well, I think if you're in a minority situation, and we'll see, then the famous Joe Clark statement that he made back in 1979 when he said, I'm going to govern as if I have a majority, when he had a very close to a majority, and that's a little bit like saying I'm going to jump out of this airplane as if I have a parachute. And if you don't have a parachute, you've got a problem, and that's what happened. So if it is a minority, my advice to the leader would be, if he ever asks me, would be to say, take it a step at a time. I don't think there needs to be any kind of organic deal with the New Democrats or anybody. I think he's going to be looking at where the other parties are on different pieces of legislation. I think he's got to have a really good House leader, somebody who knows the House and is friendly with the other parties and can talk to people and get a sense of where they're going on issues. And you have to pick and choose. And then you have to decide, well, do you want an election or not? My own view of the country at the moment is people don't particularly want another election. And so if there is a minority, that's what will happen. I still think there's a good chance that Mr. Trudeau will get a majority, and I don't rule that out at all. Based on what we're seeing tonight, I think there's a good chance that will happen.
Quick last question, then the others can jump in. But because of your experience, not only here in Ontario, but as the interim leader of the Liberal Party, if you were asked, would you serve in any capacity in the transition team? Would you help Justin Trudeau take the reins of power?
Look, the last thing the leader wants is to have people going on television campaigning for some job or other. I don't need a title, and I don't need a job. The leader knows that I'm on his team, and I'm happy to help him in any way he wants. But I'm sure he's got lots of capable people he'll be asking for advice, and that's up to him entirely.
Okay.
Can I ask you just to look back further in your history and about the NDP? What happens to Tom Mulcair now? What happens to the NDP? Where do you think they go from here?
Well, I think Mr. Mulcair will see if he wins his seat or not. I think if he loses his seat, I think it's pretty hard for him. And I don't think anybody in their right mind would gloat over that. Mr. Mulcair proved himself to be a really good, tough parliamentarian. And I think really what was difficult for him was making the transition to a very, very different world of a campaign where there's lots of things that are required of you that, he might not have had the flair to do that. He's an extremely capable guy. He's a tough opposition leader. But I think he's going to have to think carefully about what's going to happen.
Results, just sorry to interrupt, in riding right now, he is far behind.
He's far behind, and the question is how many polls are in.
It's very, very early.
1% of polls.
Yeah, so that
well,
could change.
I've learned enough not to. I won 2 elections by less than 500 votes in my riding, so you wait till the last vote is cast.
Okay.
I think if Mr. Mulcair is reelected, I think he can legitimately say to the party, I've taken you further than any other leader except for Jack. And that will be the case in terms of how far he will have come in terms of popular vote and other things. The party has a base in all the provinces, which it didn't have before, except for Atlantic Canada, where they've obviously lost. And the party will have to decide, do they want to go with him and stick with him, or do they want to try to find a new leader? And that'll be a tough choice for them to make. I think, the broader question about where does the NDP go, I think there's a very tough challenge ahead for the New Democrats.
Right, we're going to come back to that thought. Thank you very much, Mr. Rae.